Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Life with Zach, the channel where I share my journeys, my explorations, and my discoveries with you, the YouTube audience, and hope that you can find some value in it in your everyday life. Now, today I'm going to talk a little bit about researching at an archive. Okay, so I may have mentioned this before, but my day job, my real job, is as an archivist. And I wanted to just take the opportunity to share five things plus a bonus one, do's and don'ts of what you should do if you ever are in a situation where you want to do research in an archives, which could be almost anywhere, either from the National Archives down to your local historical society. Because you know what? If you don't have some good tips going in, you're not going to have the best experience and you're not going to get the answers to the questions that you're looking for. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into the do's and don'ts. All right, so the first do is do make an appointment, or at the very least, call ahead to make sure that the staff or volunteers or whoever you're going to be interacting with know that you're coming. Because if you're not going to do that, they're not going to be prepared to help you when you come in. It doesn't seem like it, but getting material for people who come into an archive takes a lot of work in thinking through what materials they may find useful is super time consuming and super important for the researcher. Okay, so if you don't call ahead, if you don't make an appointment, you just show up, you don't get the benefit of the staff's full experience and the staff's full knowledge in terms of what they can do to prepare for your visit. Okay, so if you're researching something and you just show up, they may not, they may be able to help you a little bit, but they may not be able to take the time and in depth to think through the questions that you're answering, to be able to search their catalog and their collections for what resources they have that are important to you. So you definitely need to be able to call ahead. And on a more practical note, a lot of archives only really have limited staffing. So if you're not taking the time to call ahead, you run the risk you might show up and no one will be there. Okay, even some of these places that have open hours, okay, so they may be open, but no one may be specifically there in the archives to help you because they may be attached to another institution. So don't rely just on hours and don't rely just on being a walk-in. You want to make an appointment or call ahead to make your archival research. All right. So with the first do down, let's move on to the first don't. Don't come unprepared. Okay. So in order to do archival research, there's a lot of background stuff that you have to do to get yourself ready. You need to know things like what are the rules of the institution that you're visiting? How do you get there? What kind of stuff might I be looking at? Can I take pictures of stuff? Can I make copies of stuff? Do they allow pens and pencils? All that's associated with the institution that you're visiting. So you need to prepare yourself by learning about that. You also need to prepare yourself in what material you need to bring along and have for your reference. If you're coming in to research a certain subject, the reality is you're the subject expert on that in that room. Okay, archivists are responsible for knowing a lot of things, but very little bit about each of those. Okay, because their sole job is to be able to make collections accessible to you. All right. So if you don't bring all the background information that you know that might be helpful to you and to the archivist to making your search for materials, you're going to be called unprepared. You need to bring in any previous research that you've done, timelines, things like that that can really help you focus during your search. You also need to bring all the simple things that you might not think of, like pencils, papers, something to take pictures with, um, a bag to take any materials. You need to bring money to pay for copies. If you need a charger for your devices, you need to, and also make sure your devices are silenced and that you're really prepared when you come into that room to do research. Because you know what, as we've learned over COVID or even during normal times, an archives might not be able to provide you with simple things like a pencil. So if you come in and you're unable to make notes and you find some great material, you've really lost out. So you need to be prepared when you're coming in. So don't come unprepared to archives. All right. The next do is schedule enough time when you visit. All right. And that's not only with the archivist, but in your schedule as well. Um, I've found a lot of experiences where people come in with maybe half an hour to try to do research on a very complex or difficult topic. And the reality is, half an hour is probably not going to even touch it on the most simple question, unless it's just like a one-word answer that can be found in one resource. All right. So if you're really looking for something, if you really want to conduct some research, let's say you're doing some family history research and you want to learn about a certain ancestor, don't expect that you can come in half an hour and learn basically everything that you can about a person, much less about a whole family tree. Okay, so a normal research request, something that's relatively simple, like let's say I want to look for a newspaper article, or I learned about this cool thing that happened and I wanted to see if there was any background information. Really, an hour to 2 hours for something that simple. If you're going more complex, you're talking days, weeks, months, sometimes even longer than that. Okay, so if you're going into let's say the National Archives, and you're trying to discover sailors' experiences on a battleship in the Spanish-American War, then you're going to have to spend a lot of time there. Okay, so whether it's that kind of search or a local history research or something like that, you need to make sure that you're scheduling enough time in your schedule. Don't show up um, with only a little bit of time to look into something. And you also have to take the archive staff schedule into account, um, especially if you, let's say you want to show up at 4:30 and they close at 5. You need to be aware of that you're scheduling enough time with you and with them to get what you need to get done. All right, the next don't limit your inquiry. Okay, so this is probably a more complex piece of advice, but to boil it down to as simple as we can, you don't want to limit what you're looking for. All right, so a lot of people will come in, and to use that family history example again, they'll say, I want to learn everything that I can about John Smith. Okay, and you're because you think that you know everything else there is about all of his descendants or all of his ancestors, and maybe even you're thinking, well, I just need to know his marriage, or I need to look at a birth certificate because I need to know his parents. Okay, but the reality is, if you come in like that, you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff, because what you want to do is say, take a step back and say, all right, I want to learn everything that I can about John Smith while I'm in here, and John Smith's connections, the people that he lived with, his friends, his family, all things like that, that are going to really add to your search, because no matter how well prepared you are in terms of background research that you've done, there's always more that you're going to find in the archives than you think you're going to. And this may surprise you, but a lot of people get so narrowly focused on that one thing that they miss out on other stuff. They really don't even want to hear about other resources that may be beneficial, or to take the time to look at those. So some people get so narrowly focused on, let's say, finding John Smith's marriage record, that if they're presented with other evidence about this is where John Smith lived and the land that he owned and when he got that land grant, that they don't even pay any attention to that, or they don't want to take the time to look at that, or they don't want to take the brain power to look at that, because they're so focused. So you don't want to limit your inquiry. Okay, you want to take a step back and go as broad as possible. I'll also say, in terms of local history or general history research, one of the most important things you can do is, instead of trying to come in with a very specific question, let's say about, I want to know when a business was founded, maybe think, okay, what am I really curious about? And in that instance, it's probably businesses in your community, or in whatever area that you're looking at. And you basically just need to come in and say, I'm here to research businesses. What resources do you have that will help me? And then the staff can help you with that really broad inquiry, give you information about everything that they have, and you can find what's interesting to you. Because again, if you're so focused on that narrow point of inquiry, you're going to really miss out, because you know what? You may never find that, but over here, you're missing information that is just as interesting to you for whatever reason that you're coming in. All right, so there were your 5 do's and don'ts. Do make an appointment. Don't come unprepared. Do schedule enough time for both you and the staff, and don't limit your inquiry. But as promised, I wanted to give you a bonus one, and that's another do. Do work with the archival staff or volunteers that are there. They really are the subject experts on what is in their collection. Okay. To be honest, my opinion right now is that you don't know anything about that collection compared to what they know. All right. So you need to be able to come in and work with them. If you're not going to take the time to work with them, or you're going to have the attitude that you don't want to work with them, that you don't want to listen to their advice in terms of the research that you're conducting, you're not going to get a very good experience. You're not really going to get the answers to the questions that you have. So you need to come in and work with the archival staff, tell them everything that you can about what you're looking for, and answer any questions that they have. And if they give you a piece of advice that doesn't make any sense, certainly ask questions, but you definitely want to try to follow that. Okay. If they tell you to look at something and you never thought about that, you don't want to look at that, my suggestion is you take a chance and look at that, because you know what? They have a lot of experience in research, how to do research, and how to use their collections. So if they're giving you something, there's a real reason why they're doing that. Okay. So you don't want to come in with the idea that you're not going to work with our archival staff. This is odd to me. This makes no sense, but some people come in and they don't even want to tell you what they're looking for. They don't want to take the time to talk to you. They don't want to, answer any questions that the archival staff has. They don't want to be bothered at all. And then they wonder why they don't find anything. But if you take the time to work with the staff, especially remember going back to the appointments and things, working with them in advance, you're going to get a much better experience. So I hope you find some value in these do's and don'ts of archival research. Some recommendations that I have. If you do, hit like, leave a comment with any experiences that you want or any questions that you have. I'd love to get some feedback. Hit subscribe. I'm going to do some more archival related videos soon, I hope, and hope you have a wonderful day and enjoyed this video.